Hi, I'm Jonni from ultimatepapermache.com, and this week I've been doing some experiments. Basically, the purpose of the experiment has been to kind of standardize the new recipe for the air dry clay. When this clay is mixed up the right way, it has a beautiful texture. It's really creamy and smooth. It isn't tacky at all. It's not sticky. It's fun to work with, and it just takes incredible detail. If you don't, whoops, cat just knocked off something. If you don't mix it up right, it can actually get kind of lumpy. So what I did to standardize it, I went downstairs and got my gram scale. It's not a very expensive one, it's probably not terribly accurate, but I wanted to see exactly what goes into the clay, and specifically how to measure the water that's left in the toilet paper. Now if you've seen my previous videos, you know that the air dry clay is made with toilet paper, joint compound, Elmer's glue, a PVA glue if you're not in the States, cornstarch, all-purpose flour, and a little bit of mineral oil. And the paper has to be measured wet, and then you squeeze the water out of the paper. If you squeeze the paper too much, you actually press all the little paper fibers back into little balls that no matter how much you mix it after that, they're going to stay in little balls and it's going to be lumpy and just horrible. So the important part is figuring out exactly how much water to leave into the paper. So I weighed the paper, and it turned out to be 24 grams dry. There we go, we got 24. Now this is in its dry state, but of course we have to now get it wet because it's not going to mix into the clay when it's dry, so we have to get it wet. And this is warm water, it's actually quite hot. And I'm going to leave it in here for just a minute. It doesn't take very long because toilet paper has been especially designed to fall apart when it gets wet. It's the only reason it doesn't clog up our plumbing. So just leave it in there for a little while. And the whatever it is that they use to keep the little fibers together is softened up, and it all falls apart. And that's pretty much all I need to do. And now I need to get the water out. It seems that the best way to get the water out is to use a little sieve like this. Usually I do it over the sink, but don't have a sink here. So then we just pour the water out, and almost all of the paper ends up in the sieve. You can see there's almost no paper left in the water, which makes it easy then for us to actually measure this, because if we lost most of the paper, then our gram scale wouldn't really help us very much. What we're trying to do now is to find out how much paper to leave, or how hard to squeeze it, basically. So what I want this paper to weigh when it's all done is 110 grams. I've got this set to 0 now with the bowl on it, and what I'm looking for is 110 grams wet. So I'm going to squeeze out a bit more water. It's getting closer. There we go, got 110. Now I'm going to try to get this up close so you can see it. It's still damp. It's not dripping water, but it also hasn't been squashed in so tightly that it reforms itself as a clump of paper. It's still individual pieces, or at least it will be as soon as we mix it up. Okay, Okay, now we're all ready to mix it up. I put the paper in this bowl after I poured the water out, of course. Put all the other ingredients in there except for the last portion of the flour. I put half a cup of flour, which is about 70 grams of flour, so that I can mix it all up together. And then the last part of the flour is going to be added with the dough hook, because it kind of wears out our machine here. It gets a little bit tired after a while. So I'm going to go ahead and start mixing it up. It's quite thick already. You see, it's kind of trying to follow the beaters around. And it's the hard work for the mixer. You probably don't want to do this with a really fancy, nice mixer. Now it seems real smooth now. There's no lumps showing, but it is making the mixer kind of tired. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to move to the dough hooks. At this point, if you don't have a little mixer like this with dough hooks attached, go ahead and mix it in by hand, a little bit more of the flour, and then knead the rest of it on your counter, just like you would bread. It's going to make a mess, but it still worked. I've measured out the last 100 grams of flour. I'm just going to add a little bit at a time, because this is actually how you determine the consistency that you want. I like a pretty firm, non-sticky clay, but if you play with it for a while and you think that it should be softer, then just don't use as much flour. Starting to come together really nice. And there it is, coming into a ball. I've added the full 100 extra grams of flour. Now you can see it isn't exactly smooth right at the moment, but it's going to be quite soon, and it's very, very close to what we want. Now what we're going to do is going to finish it on the counter. And I'm going to put a little bit of cornstarch down here, and I'm using cornstarch just for this part of it, just because it absorbs so much water and it's nice and smooth and silky. And I'm just kneading it like it was regular bread dough. And it's not sticking because I measured everything by the gram scale. It isn't sticking to the counter. So it already had all of the flour in it that it needed to keep it from getting sticky and really tacky. And just that little bit of kneading is all it really needed. You can see it's taking really, really fine detail. Here I can squeeze out this little piece here to just a fraction of an inch, and it holds its shape. It isn't tacky. It does need, because it isn't tacky, when you add a new piece of clay to dried clay, you do need to use a mixture half and half water and glue, just like you would with created paper clay, because since it doesn't have that stickiness to it, it obviously needs a little bit of help if you're going to be adding it to something like I do quite often. Very nice. The very last step, maybe even the most important one, is to get it covered. This is air dry clay, so obviously it dries in the air, and you don't really want it to until it's time. Like I said, I'm going to be printing the actual ingredients both in cup measures and in gram measures down below the video, so you can have those on hand. Come visit us, ultimatepapermache.com, and if you make anything with the clay, please come and show it off. We'd love to see it. Bye-bye.